Thank you, everyone. You're listening to the fifth episode of Next in Queue. I'm your host, Rob Dwyer, and today I'm excited to be joined by someone a little more local to me here in the St. Louis community. Shante Smith Daniels is joining me. Welcome. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Well, it is absolutely my pleasure. So, uh, you are the global sales operations manager, and I think you got some other words in this title for the Economist newspaper, although most Americans think of it as a magazine. Is that right?
That is right. Most Americans, including myself, would call it a magazine, but it is indeed a newspaper because it's a weekly print. So it's a newspaper.
Yeah. All right. Well, um, so let's start off. I mean, obviously you're at The Economist now, but you've only been there for, I don't know, what, 3-ish years, something like that.
Mhm.
But you've been in the customer service industry for something like 15-ish years, right?
Right. Yeah.
A lot of time previously in the insurance sector. So tell me about that. How did you get started in that?
I actually got started in insurance and as a 16-year-old. I wanted a part-time job and I applied at my local McDonald's. And I was one of the people they didn't hire. So no, everyone does not get into McDonald's. But in the strip mall, there was an insurance agency there. And I'm about to date myself. So I was a telemarketer and I had to use the white pages. Um,
Okay.
and so I had the privilege of calling people during their dinner time, um, which they would remind me. And also it was like Blues hockey season, which they would remind me of that as well. And so that's how I kind of got started in insurance. And then I got in customer service insurance with Liberty Mutual in North Carolina, which was lovely. I got licensed and kind of moved my way to sales assistant, back to customer service insurance. I actually love insurance. My family still comes to me for insurance questions. I remember all of those endorsements, check your endorsements, make sure you have water, sewer backup on your house if you have a basement. I remember all that stuff. So that experience actually provided me with a lot of my customer service, like operations experience that I have now.
Yeah, I imagine. My first contact center gig was also outbound. It wasn't insurance, it was credit cards, which
Uh-huh.
is even worse. And
Right.
I didn't last long in that business, but I understand exactly the responses that you were getting because I too was working evenings and people would be like, I'm in the middle of dinner. Why are you calling me?
Right.
Sorry. Um, so so you are in insurance for a long time,
Hmm.
and then you transitioned to The Economist. And obviously, not only is that a different industry because it's a publication, it's not insurance at all, but it's also a global company. And it's not just a global company, it's a global company that focuses on global economic issues.
Hmm.
I wonder, has that changed for you how you look at things or like the news that you consume, or has that changed anything for you, the business that you're in?
I would say it's helped me to see the inside of the business. I didn't realize all that goes into keeping a publication in print. Um,
Yeah.
so that's a lot. Regarding customer service, it's, the agents have to realize there's a print, there's the digital. Um, so it's just given me insight in like a whole world view. I actually, if you read The Economist or anyone wants to read it, my favorite section is the obituary section. And say that, but I mean, they will write the most beautiful piece about someone. I mean, and it just makes you feel like you knew that person. Um, so that's actually my favorite part of it. Economist newspaper.
That's that's really interesting and not what I was anticipating you to say was your
No.
favorite part. Uh, so there are a couple of things that I'm curious about, um, kind of sort of related. So, first of all, I think we should let everyone know that you're also a personal trainer.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I think about that and I think about being in the contact center business, one of the things that I have always observed is it's a very sedentary job. And I think over the last couple of years, a lot of people have moved from jobs that maybe weren't as sedentary and now they're working at home and maybe they're having some of those experiences. So I wonder, from your perspective, number one, if you're hearing from people that maybe um, weren't working from home,
Mhm.
if they're talking about challenges that they're having maintaining a healthy lifestyle, and two, like what's your advice to someone that may be struggling, like just a quick, like first easiest thing that someone can do to be healthier?
The easiest thing would be to move more. Um, so I think people underestimate movement, and they think they have to like sign up for CrossFit or do like 1,000 burpees in a day. But really just walking. That's probably the easiest thing. When I was in a contact center, I was always, when it was my employees' break time, I would say, you need to go on break. You need to get up from your desk, go to the break room. If it's nice out, let's go for a walk. So a couple of times I will walk with them during break. But it's really just moving more. That's the way to get started. And I just know, from my experience being in a contact center, it's back to back calls. You really don't want to get up because you have to come sit right back down. But during that break lunchtime, that's the time for you to get up, practice a little self care by either taking a walk, eating a lunch, whatever you're doing there. So I was a really big advocate of leaving your desk during break and lunches. Like, get up. Like, is everything okay? I'll make sure you're okay. And they say, yeah, everything's good. Okay, let's get up away from your desk. Would you like go for a walk? And then we would go for a walk.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice. I know that I, so I just not just started, right? It's been a year and a half working from home, but I have found that I have to make myself
Mhm.
consciously. Typically, I'll do it after work, just kind of in the afternoon, like go for a stroll, right? I need to get out and go for a walk, or sometimes I just need to get up from the desk and like walk around, even indoors, because I feel like I'm not doing that as much as I did in the office. And so, and that wasn't, I didn't have to think about it in the office. Now I have to think about it a little bit more. So I imagine there are other people that are struggling with that as well.
Yeah, and I struggle with that. So The Economist is my first work from home remote job. So I struggled with that same thing. And, when you're working from home, you don't receive a notification at your break time, right?
Right.
um, but now my lovely watch will tell me it's time for me to stand up. So I do, I do. Sometimes I ignore it, but sometimes I do stand up and walk around.
Yeah. Um, so one of the other things that struck me is that you've got a BA in psychology, and I'm wondering how that has informed both your fitness coaching and how you operate and motivate people in the contact center world.
Yeah. So not only my bachelor's in psychology, but I think like real life experience, right? So I understand people are coming from different places, right? So some of I was a single mom for a very long time during my contact center career, and especially in a contact center, I can remember, I had to come to work, right? I had to make it work,
Yeah.
even though, my childcare may not been in the best situation. But I had to come to work. I had to pass quality, I had to get through the calls, I had to do all this, and so that's just helped me realize like people are coming to work with different experiences. And especially in like sales. So when I was motivating my team, I used to have a team of 23 direct reports, right?
It's a big team.
It was a big team. But what I did was I talked to each one of them to see what their motivation was, right? So some people in sales, their motivation is like money.
Right.
I got that. Let me show you how much money you can earn. Da 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 da. Some people in sales aren't money driven; they're more customer focused. So then I would have to pitch, okay, this is how we're going to help our customer. We have to provide these products. So I think the background in psychology and just like real life experiences is what I use to kind of drive my team, their performance. Even when I'm doing training sessions, sometimes I used to facilitate training sessions, which I love training, love it, love it. But even then, it's making sure I engage everyone where they're at and not assume that I know where they're at.
Yeah, I think that is often missed particularly among people that are first-time managers or just kind of get new into a role where they're leading people, and that they assume that people have the same motivations that they have, right? This is what motivates me, so I think this is what's going to motivate you, and that is definitely not always the case. In fact, it's rarely the case. And so I love that you would take that approach of trying to understand directly from them what it is that motivates you, so that now when I work with you, right, I've always got that in the back of my head, and how I approach coaching and how you approach those one-on-one sessions. So that's awesome. So does that hold true then for the fitness as well? Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you're coming from. I mean, someone may come to me and say, I want a flat stomach. And so what I'll say is, why do you want a flat stomach? And they may say, so I can fit my clothes better. I said, okay, that's fair. I said, but we can't spot, this isn't plastic surgery, so I can't aim on your flat stomach. But what we can do is we can have a calorie deficit, right? And there's some exercises we can do to help your overall figure. Now, wouldn't it be nice if you fit better in your jeans, just, smaller thighs, whatever?
Yes.
So it's just reframing like their goals. And honestly, like social media, like the fitness industry as a whole, I think is kind of predatory sometimes with the things we say. And it gives people like expectations of what they should look like. And I try to get them to a point to understand, like, how do you feel? Like you may have not have lost the 20 pounds you wanted to lose in this time frame, but how do you feel, right? Do you feel stronger? You're able to walk faster. Your clothes are fitting better. And so, it's get into figure out like what's their why, like what's the real reason we're doing this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. I mean, I have to admit, right now I'm not in the best shape of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, COVID. But I can't blame it all on that, right? The choices that I make on a daily basis obviously impact that as well. But I think back at a time when I was in really good shape, and sure, I loved being able to wear clothes that were smaller than I was used to or tighter than I was used to. But I think more than anything, I also really liked the energy that I had throughout the day. I was getting up earlier. I was getting up actually really early every day to go running.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was going all day long. I wasn't tired, and until it was bedtime, and then I would sleep really well.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're not in very good shape, right, the exact opposite happens.
Right.
You don't have energy, you don't sleep well, and so some of those ancillary benefits of, hey, I feel like I look better, well, those are they can be important to people
Mhm.
and shouldn't necessarily be overlooked. But I think there's some other things going on that people may not consider as really great benefits of being in shape.
Yeah, I agree. I used to weigh about 200 pounds, and I lost. I don't know if you remember Tybo. Do you remember Tybo?
Oh yeah.
I used to love Tybo.
Was that
Any
Billy Banks? Is that his
Billy
name?
Banks? Yeah, yeah,
Banks, Blanks, something like that.
yeah. I used to do Tybo because I thought I was want to be like martial arts person. And so that's how I lost most of my weight. But my goal wasn't really to lose weight; it was really to relieve some stress. So I was doing the air
Yeah.
punches and the kicks. And then that's how I started losing a lot of weight and just feeling just like you said, it's how you're feeling. It wasn't really about the clothes. I was just feeling so much better.
Yeah, I was actually stressed out about the clothes because I'm like, well, I got to buy all these new clothes. Like, it cost a lot of money to get into shape just because you got to replace everything. Like, I
Yeah.
can't wear these pants; they just fall down. Like, so that was actually the stressful part for me for really getting into shape was having to buy all new clothes. So something else that I want to talk about is you are in you are involved in a lot of different community initiatives.
Mhm.
And I guess the one that strikes me that seems like it's combining a lot of your passions that we've talked about right now is the fit and food connection. So you're the leader of the development community, and I think that's a relatively new thing, but I don't know for sure. Can you tell us more about that? Kind of what the mission is?
Yeah, so I became the leader of the development committee like in November of last year. So Fit and Food's mission overall is to provide wellness and healthy food to people in need. So we specifically focus on people in a food desert. So we're located in St. Louis, Missouri. We have an organic garden um, in the city, um, and that we grow that food and we give it to our members for food. So the reason I'm in that is I love fitness, right?
Right.
I understand how um, people feel better, right? If they're just doing
Yeah.
a little exercise. Number two, I was that mom that had to go to a food pantry to get food for my children. So I understand like how it feels to have to get out your car, stand in line, get food and get food that wasn't really the best for your family, but
Yeah.
that's all you could get. So like I understand that. So I love our mission um, because it's so dear to my heart. And I just feel like now I'm at a time in life where I can help provide some assistance. And so my committee, we're charged with raising funds, helping raise funds for that community.
So for people that maybe don't live in a city the size of St. Louis or maybe just aren't familiar with that term, can you help us understand um, the phrase that you use, a food desert? Because I think there are some people
Yeah.
out there who maybe don't know what that is.
Yeah. So I probably don't have the exact definition, but basically, it's someone that doesn't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables in a certain radius. So a lot of times you'll see in the cities, especially like inner cities, they do not have a grocery store.
Right.
What they may have is like a bodega that may have some apples, right? But they don't have
Yeah.
access to fresh fruit and vegetables. And so that's pretty much what that means.
Yeah, that whole produce section that some of us kind of take for granted when we go to the grocery store. You know, um, I really love that work that you're doing. I grew up in a single parent household when I was really young. My mom was a young single mother, and she had the same kinds of economic challenges that I think a lot of young single mothers do, and you do your best to provide for your kids, but there are some days like it was like grilled cheese and tomato soup, like that was as good as it was going to get. And as a kid, I don't think you have any idea of um, what that lack of nutrition might mean, right? I mean, you just know whether you're hungry or you're not hungry, and whether it tastes good or doesn't taste good. That's all you know. But I think for parents who are experiencing that kind of economic hardship, it's hard to know what to do or where to go.
Yeah, I agree. And there just are not enough resources to provide healthy food options to people in need. So that's one of our goals, to spread that. Hopefully we expand outside of St. Louis one day, but there's definitely a correlation with what you eat and how you feel. And so our organization brings those two things together.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And you know what, there's nothing wrong with being local and helping, the people that are here locally. Certainly, if you can grow the mission, great, grow the mission. But starting small sometimes is the way to go, because you're helping the people that are in your community. Um, so something that you recently were inducted into, and I really just am not familiar with this organization, so I'm hoping that you can enlighten me. And that's the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. So tell me about that. Tell me, because I just don't know anything about it, and so I want to learn more today.
Yeah, so the National Coalition of 100 Black Women is actually all over the country. There's chapters all over the place. I'm in the metropolitan St. Louis chapter. And so our goal is to empower women and girls, Black women and girls, by providing resources regarding education, talking about public policy, health. So what we do is we set up seminars or speaking events with people that are experts in these fields to talk to us. We also have a mentorship program for young ladies in the St. Louis area. So we're just doing a lot on that end. We also talk about gender equity, right? So we had something last year addressing the pay gap, how to ask for more money, which we know women are paid less than men, and then Black women are paid less than other women. So that's what we're doing. We're just trying to make a more even playing field for Black women and girls.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what challenges? I mean, I think we know so many of these challenges that exist from a systemic issue, but I'm wondering what challenges your organization or that organization comes up against as they try to close some of these gaps and address some of these issues. Like, what's the hardest part of that mission?
I think the hardest part is just letting everybody know about it, right? And getting involvement from everyone. We're pretty good with getting people involved, but it could be so much bigger, right? We could spread the word so much more. I also see like see more like corporate involvement, sponsorship of things like that. But we do a lot. We have accomplished a lot, and we will continue to accomplish a lot. But like I said, it'll probably be helpful to have a little more corporate sponsorship with some things, with some of our initiatives.
Yeah, I mean, certainly money money helps get the word out, right? I mean, that's money helps fund a lot of different things that any organization is trying to do, and certainly nonprofits, I think, continue to struggle sometimes to raise the money that they need, particularly when the economic system kind of is where it is in America right now, which is there are still a lot of people that are unemployed, or they're underemployed, or just right, just don't feel like they are quite where they want to be from an economic stability standpoint, even if they are employed. And that makes it hard for them to feel like, oh, I can give money to this cause when I can't even get all my own bills paid.
Yeah, and then corporate sponsorship is also just advocating,
Yeah.
advocating on behalf of the program, or volunteering time. So those are all ways that people can help.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously you're super involved now. So did you grow up here in St. Louis? Is that where you're from?
I was born in New York City. I moved to St. Louis in the third grade um, for my dad's job. They moved us here to St. Louis. So I've pretty much been here ever since, except for a year I was in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay. Okay. I imagine, I mean, third grade is pretty young, but that's still a pretty big culture shock coming from New York to St. Louis, I imagine.
It is. And we actually used to go to New York every summer. So I probably still didn't claim St. Louis probably until I was in high school, because I'm like, I'm going back to New York in the summer. So claiming St. Louis is a recent occurrence. And then now I actually live in Troy, Illinois, which is like a little outside of St. Louis. So
Yeah, which is definitely not New York City. Let's just get
no,
that out there.
not at all. No, not at all.
But there aren't many places in the city that you can have that kind of green backyard that you've got going on right now. You can do that in Troy.
You can do that in Troy. Come visit Troy if anyone wants to visit. Yeah, it's a very quiet, small town. I love it. It's very quiet. Very, very quiet.
So I that whole quiet small town thing, is that a function of you've always kind of liked that, or is that kind of a recent thing or a newer thing?
It's a recent thing. So when I first came here, my real estate agent told me about it. I was working in Chesterfield, Missouri. I don't. So people that know the region will know like the distance.
Yeah.
So she was like, "Come look at this place after work." I put in my GPS. It was like 55 minutes. And I was like, no, I don't. But she was like, you got to look at it. And so I drove the 55 minutes. And then when I got to my neighborhood, um, it was so peaceful. Like as soon as I turned in, it was just like all these trees. And I was like, wow, this is peaceful. And so that's why I'm here. I would have
Yeah.
never thought about this without my real estate agent. So yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, I have always, so I grew up in a small town, and I, you know, very early on, I was like, I got to get out, right? I want to live in the city. And I did, like, not super big cities, but I, lived in Kansas City, and then I lived in Minneapolis for a while, and I've lived in St. Louis now for a long time. And um, while I like visiting kind of the country, like my grandmother lives out in the country, she lives in South Texas, and she's got a place just kind of out in the country, deer coming into the yard, that kind of thing. And I love it. I absolutely love it. But I love it while I'm there. And then I'm like, but you got to drive like 45 minutes to get to anything.
You do. We just get used to it though. We're used to it. Let's get in a car and go.
Yeah. Yeah. Shop big when you go shopping. Make sure you
Yes.
don't leave anything off the list,
Yes,
because
that
you're
is
not going
actually what
back.
we do. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for that. I like having my grocery store, like, it's not quite walking distance, but it's pretty close to walking distance. Like,
Wow.
uh,
Ours is, well, we just had a new one open up, but before that we were driving about 20 minutes to the grocery store.
only Costco for me. That's my 20-minute drive. I gotta drive 20 minutes to Costco, but not the grocery store. The grocery store is like 5 minutes. I'm good to go. Good to
Yeah.
go. So I am curious. when we talk about customer service, like you started in customer service as an agent,
Mhm.
and now you're managing this global sales organization. And I hear this often from a lot of leaders in the contact center world, right? I started as an agent and now I'm whatever they're doing. And that's true for me too, right? In this business, I started as an agent. I wonder, one, did you ever think this is where you were going to end up? So I'll start there, and then you can answer that, and then we'll come back to my next question.
No, I never thought I would end up working for a global publication. No, never.
So, two then is, what advice do you have for people that maybe are taking a job in a contact center, and maybe they're looking at it the exact same way I looked at it when I took my first job in a contact center, was like, I just need a job.
Mhm.
That was what was going through my head. Like, I just need a job. I need something that has a paycheck and has some insurance. Like, sign me up. But what advice would you give someone that maybe is entering or has just entered this business, and that's kind of where they're at?
So my advice would be to work hard, and always be looking out for open doors. And if there's a skill that you're interested in, I'm hoping you have good leadership around you that will help you build up on that leadership. But the contact center world, there's so many different areas you can go into where you don't have to be taking calls like for 40 years, right?
Right.
Um, so I would just say work hard. And if you see an open door, go for it. Um, Try to do as much on the job training as you can, try to shadow people. Um, and depending on where you work, if you're a contact center agent and you want to become manager, and sit with your manager and say, how did you get here?
Yeah, so I really love that advice, and I think that's it's a really simple thing to do, but I don't think many people think about that. Like, just ask your leaders, right? What did you do? What was your journey to get here? And maybe I can take some of that and replicate it along the way.
Yeah, maybe, or it's just giving you some advice on how you can craft your journey to get somewhere similar.
Yeah. So, what is it that right now that you have seen aside from the pandemic, right? So I think we all recognize that a lot of things have changed, but I'm curious, kind of what you're looking into, what you're interested in when it comes to the contact center business that you think is like next, or different or new.
I think the pandemic has birthed like a new type of contact center engagement. I think it's so important now more than ever that we do things to engage our contact center reps.
Mhm.
Um, Outside of customer service week,
Right,
right?
which just wrapped up.
Which
Yep.
just wrapped up, which is once a year, right? Um, but the pandemic was a very stressful time, especially for agents. Some of them were working from home, and now they're back in the office. So I think and it's also what they're calling the great resignation, right? So we have to make the contact center advisors or agents feel like they're valued with engagement, with incentives, just um, wanting to develop them more, provide more coaching, like for their future plans. So to me, I think that's where my heart's going. Making
Yeah.
sure, even though, because we've been on the phones, we've been on those back to back calls. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been late for break, even though we were hungry because we were on a call. We couldn't
Uh-huh.
end the call. We had to say, okay, and
Uh,
still we had that professional voice. So we've been there. So I think now more than ever, we just have to let the agents know how valued they are, how much we appreciate them on a regular basis.
yeah, I think often that is an area that is really easy for us to forget about. And I think it's actually harder too when we are not seeing each other
Hmm.
because uh, even though we have all these communication tools, we have lots of different ways to communicate with each other, in the contact center, depending on what tools that you use, there are all kinds of ways that you're going to be able to talk with your agents and communicate with your agents. Most often, that's you're probably not seeing their face and they're not seeing your face. And I think it becomes really easy for us to lose that human connection with people because we can't just walk by and smile at them and wave or come by and say, hey, how's it going? Or would you do this weekend? Like we forget to do those things because there's not that kind of casual, I'm just walking by and I can just have that casual conversation.
Hmm.
And sometimes because we have to have conversations that may relate to the job, we do those and we're intentional about those, but we forget we also have to be intentional about just being human with people.
Right? Yeah, I agree.
Like I just want to talk to you and find out what's been going on with you. Not I need to talk to you about this call that you took, this morning that ended up getting escalated or whatever the case may be.
Right. But that's how, I mean, for me, I think that's how I drive performance. Right. So I feel like I drive performance by creating a relationship with my team. Now, of course, you're a leader, everyone doesn't always like you. But but they can trust me, right? Because I've built that relationship, seeing how they're doing, just checking in on them. So when I do have to have those tough conversations, they trust what I'm saying, and they know I have their best interests at heart, because having their best interests at heart is what drives performance.
Yeah, that reminds me every time I hear someone talk about leadership qualities, the the video that always pops into my mind is Colin Powell talking about leadership.
Mhm.
And it just like someone asks him this question and it comes out of his mouth so fast and so confidently. He's like, trust.
Yeah.
That's it. Trust. When you trust me, you will run through a brick wall for me. You will, go down the darkest valleys and follow me wherever I go if you trust.
Mhm.
And so I absolutely know that you're onto something. I mean, you're in pretty good company with Colin Powell. So
Cool.
I mean, there's worse company to be in. I
Yeah,
think probably doing all right with that.
I agree.
So I heard maybe that you're thinking about moving from the St. Louis area. Is this possible?
Yeah,
Maybe.
possible. I love St. Louis. I do not like the St. Louis winters. I no longer like those. Um,
Mm.
so I'm thinking of moving south, probably Texas. Um, it sounds like I was actually in Texas, when they had the freeze in was that
Yeah.
February? I was there when the power and the water
Oh no.
out. Me and my husband were stuck in a hotel, and palm trees died. Like, I went there to see the palm trees and it was so cold, all the palm trees died. But despite that, it was a nice visit.
So you went through that experience and you're still like, yeah, I'm still good with that.
Well, they said it only happens like once in a while. So I'm a trust that is correct. Like once every 10 years, maybe, or something weird.
Okay. I
I'm
mean that's fair. Look, I totally understand what you mean by the winters. And this isn't even, I mean, I lived in Minneapolis for a couple of years.
Mm.
I learned a new definition for winter and cold, and that definition involved like the little hairs in your nose freezing as soon as you walk out. They have the most gorgeous summers in Minneapolis. It's my favorite place in the summer, I think, that I've ever been to. But the winters, oh my gosh, they are brutal. So I'm personally not a fan of winter, and I get where you're coming from because Texas does have some beautiful weather when it comes to the time that everyone in St. Louis is wearing their big puffy coats and
Mm-hmm.
your toes are freezing and your shoes and all of that. So I get it.
Yeah. So I'm looking, and they have great food. They have so much food. So
They
much good
do.
food. I can't wait.
They do. So this is, you were looking at the Houston area, right? Yeah. It's they have such a diverse population that like the food options there are off the chain. They're anything you want, they got it, and
Yeah.
it's delicious. It's delicious. And look, it's Texas. They have Texas barbecue, and I'm a Kansas City barbecue guy. Don't get me wrong, but Texas barbecue, like, that's good
You're
stuff.
making me hungry.
I'm making me hungry. We're recording this. It's not that far from dinner time.
Right?
It's like a little after 5 o'clock, and I'm not even going to talk about what I had for lunch, but let's just say that um, it was not a meal
Mm-hmm.
in the traditional sense of the meal. So with that in mind, we probably both ought to grab something. Let me just take a moment to thank you so much for joining me. I loved getting to know you and hearing about all the wonderful things that you are doing.
Well, thanks for having me. This was
Uh,
fun.
it was fun. It was fun. And at some point, maybe we'll do it again. And maybe instead of that beautiful green background that you have for the people that might be watching on YouTube, maybe, right, it'll be a beautiful, like, Texas background with some frozen palm trees.
I'm hoping a
No.
pool. I'm hoping I'm hoping a pool. So we'll see.
Okay, well, if you need any pool maintenance suggestions, I'll put you in touch with my grandmother. She's
Right.
the expert. She's been living down there for decades now, and she's got the pool maintenance on lockdown. So I can put you in touch with someone who knows what they're doing.
Cool. I look forward to it.
All right. Well, Shante, thanks for joining me on Next in Queue, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.